Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of March 22nd, 2015. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. So I hope everybody is taking a little bit of an exhale. Actually, I do think, considering the events of last week, some really big sort of turning points happening for a lot of people out there. This week is a little softer, but we're actually carrying the energy of last week into this week. So we're still under the umbrella of the eclipse. I would encourage you to watch last week's horoscope again if you still have not been feeling the energies that are symbolized in the sky that I spoke of last week. This week, you should start feeling that things are becoming a lot clearer in terms of the lessons that the eclipse was attempting to bring home to you. So still big changes. We're in a period now between eclipses. It's said that this time is when the veils between the worlds are at their thinnest, and this tends to be a time when truths are revealed. The things that were sort of eluding us, that maybe were staring us in the face, but we hadn't been ready to acknowledge, now we do get a chance to admit to ourselves, and we get that fresh perspective as well. So all around, it does look like a great time to connect with whatever it is that you consider that higher part of yourself, or the more mystical part of yourself, whether you want to call it ancestors, whether you want to call it love, whether you want to call it wisdom. Great time to be open to that, and with just a little bit of intention, having things become a lot more clearer and having things come to consciousness that maybe before had felt a little bit elusive or hard to actually pinpoint, or had felt like they were sort of in the ether, that they were dancing around your awareness. Now you're able to actually intellectualize them and feel like your mind is getting clearer as a result of being able to put into words what it is that you've been feeling for a while. So this is energy we're carrying into the week. Will be with us all week until we get a little bit further down the road into next week, when we will have another eclipse. And of course, I'll be here to talk about it at that time. What is happening this week, though, is a lot of supportive conversations in the sky, what astrologers call aspects. A lot of these happening that are speaking to supporting awareness, supporting understanding, and making smart choices based on the insights that have come about as of our recent experience. And this, to me, is especially spurred forward by the fact that in the middle of the week, we have possibly one of the strongest occurrences that supports this, is that the sun will be speaking in supreme harmony with Saturn. Now, this happens twice a year when the sun speaks to Saturn in this manner, in what astrologers call a trine. So this is a conversation of supreme harmony, of an easy flow of energy. And this, to me, represents an easy understanding of what will be the most effective action to take, what's smart to do, what's ethical to do, what's the right thing to do. What's the right thing to do in terms of what you desire to manifest, but also just what's the right thing to do that's going to make you feel right within yourself. And so with all the understandings that are happening now, we're able to take that and turn it into tangible progress. That's ultimately what this conversation speaks to. It's actually seeing gains in the material world. And to me, I absolutely love Saturn. And I love Saturn. Honestly, I love all the planets. I think all of them have their blessings to give us. All of them have their opportunity to make our lives better, to move us towards greater love and greater wisdom. With Saturn, one of the higher lessons of Saturn is that we are incarnated for a reason. We are embodied. We're in the earth school, the earth plane, whatever you want to call it, for a reason. And that this is spiritual. The mundane is spiritual. And that there's something to be said for having a vision, but seeing it through to manifestation. That does make a difference. It's one thing to be Jupiterian. It's one thing to be Neptunian, which is all about the dream. But Saturn allows you to turn whatever dream you have into reality. That's what Saturn's about. When the sun speaks to Saturn, we understand what needs to happen so that we can experience progress, so that we can turn whatever it is that we desire to do into reality, into something that actually makes a difference in our lives in a very practical way, in a very tangible way that moves us forward, whether it's towards greater career success, greater financial success, or just makes our lives easier to manage as well. So there's a practical element, a very tangible element to this energy, which means progress, and it means change is happening in our lives thanks to the symbol that is playing out here. So kind of hugging this very special conversation happening in the middle of the week. First, in the earlier part of the week, we have Mercury speaking in harmony with Pluto and Venus speaking in harmony with Neptune. Now, I just spoke about Jupiter and Neptune being all about the dream. Well, Venus speaking to Neptune really is about the dream. This is about believing in miracles, believing in matters of the heart, believing that if you love it, it will happen for you, whether it's person, place, thing, situation, dream, whatever that is for you. If there is love, it can be realized. Miracles can happen. And that certainly is a part of our experience on earth as well. And so there's a magical element to this, a belief that love can transform any situation. In my humble opinion, it absolutely can. And so we'll be motivated to take more loving actions, more forgiving actions, but also to trust inspiration, especially when it's leading us in a direction that has to do with trusting what we love. You add to this Mercury speaking with Pluto, and this to me is making a plan that makes the difference on the one hand, and this is also having a conversation that gets right to the core of a matter to facilitate transformation, to facilitate evolution and change. So we've got these two different things playing out at the same time, supporting each other. So on the one hand, smart perception, in-depth perception that allows us to strategize, and on the other hand, having the faith and belief that miracles can happen, and absolutely they can, and we're very likely to see some positive results as a result of belief and understanding on an intellectual level, on a mind level at that. This also supports what I said a little bit earlier, how things that we might have just been feeling, okay? As we've entered now this period between eclipses, this week we will actually be able to understand how it is that we are going to verbalize what it is that we are actually feeling. The insights that we're having, we'll be able to conceptualize them and understand how ultimately all of this is helping us to move very positively forward. And then before the week is out, we do have another conversation taking place between Venus and Jupiter. Now, this is a type of conversation that astrologers call a square, and this is a conversation that is one of tension, but I think of this more, I mean, when these two planets get together in this type of conversation, this is overdoing it. That's really it. Whatever your it is, this is overdoing that it with a grand IT to it. So this is, I mean, right now Venus is in sort of a home, Venus's home sign of Taurus, and this is about earthly delights, earthly pleasure, okay? Enjoying the experience of being incarnated and the five senses and all that entails. And Jupiter, of course, is about making things bigger. It's about indulging and overindulging at that. And in the sign of Leo, I mean, Leo is also a sign that has to do with recreational activities. It has to do with romance as well. So when I see something like this, I mean, this is really like going all out for somebody that you kind of like, that you may not really know, that you kind of like them, and you go like way over the top, and that may or may not work. I would advise tap into that Mercurial if this is you. If you want to like sort of make a step forward towards somebody that you're interested in, tap into that Mercury Pluto so that you understand the best way forward, and so that you're being honest with yourself as well as you move forward. And also tap into that Sun and Saturn speaking in supreme harmony as well. And so we've got this conversation playing out. This is also just overdoing it on a level of the good times, right? This is overdoing it with food and wine and partying and enjoying your life. And you look, I think joy and enjoyment is good energy, of course, but just be mindful if it is substituting sort of a real sense of joy in your spirit, a real sense of being at peace and being stable within your spirit. When it is used to distract yourself from not really feeling that you have that, that is when you run into a bit of murky waters at that. But for all that, there is overconfidence, there is overdoing it. Do it responsibly, and all should be well. Well, thank you so much for watching that introduction. I'm so grateful that you guys are here, still working really hard on some things I was hoping to launch by now. But they're still sort of in the works. I'm sure. I trust the universe. I know things come together exactly when they're meant to, and just so excited to have this opportunity to share with you whatever it is and all the things that I do that have to do with affirming that the universe is wise and loving. Truly so grateful that you're here and celebrating that, what I believe is true. The universe is wise and loving, celebrating that with me. Thank you so much for your continued interactions on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiashah.com. I absolutely love them. Thank you for your amazing feedback on the daily astrological horoscopes that are posted on my website. I write those in conjunction with Symbolic Living. I've been partnering with them since the beginning of my professional full-time career as an astrologer, going way back years now, and I absolutely love working with them. And so thank you so much for reading that and keeping the feedback coming and interacting with me and telling me that you enjoy that. It means so much to me. Thank you. And of course, I love your interactions. I'm being asked some questions that are a little bit more personal, have to do with your own life, and so in that case I would encourage you to consider a personalized horoscope where I can do just that, look at your unique birth chart and answer your questions. But of course, my hope with these videos always is that they in some way infuse your life with some hope, some inspiration, and some reminder that you are exactly where it is that you're supposed to be, and that your life is moving you as part of the mystery towards greater love and greater wisdom. It is my purpose. It is my mission. It's the reason that I do everything I do, and I'm truly so grateful that you are here to allow me to do just that. So how all this wonderful stuff in the sky speaks to you and your sign is coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. This is a week when I am seeing you having these two distinct motivations. And actually, you know, all of us in some way are complex. We've got different varying aspects of our lives. Some areas where we can feel a little bit more together than others. Some areas where we allow ourselves to indulge more than others. And so what I'm actually seeing playing out here, we've got the sun in your sign speaking in harmony with Saturn. And so it looks like there's some goal, some desire to experience more, whether it's to travel or to learn more, or to actually undertake a process of education, learn a new language, explore a new culture. In some way, there is a vision that is inspiring you to be smart today. And whether that means saving money, whether that means sort of planning for what it is that you really want to do in the near future, I see that happening there for you. At the same time, what we have happening is Venus speaking with Jupiter, and these planets are in a placement that talks about you just spending a whole lot of money, having a lot of fun with it, but then after the fact being like, why did I do that? Why did I spend all that money? For what? And so this is where that sense of balance comes in. And sometimes it isn't what you think it is. So what I mean by that is, I am very much of the belief that money is relative. Money is relative. The emotion that you carry when you think about $10 is the same emotion that someone else has for $100, or someone else might have $4,000 or $10,000. And I remember years ago, many, many years ago, in my formative years, a spiritual mentor of mine said to me once that anything over a toonie is a concept. And what he meant by that, in Canada we have these $2 coins, and what he meant by that is, at the end of the day, we've got all these numbers playing out in the bank, but what really matters is the experiences that you're getting to enjoy, that you're getting to have, and what that actually means, what that actually gets you. So when I look at this sky, ultimately it's going to be about you deciding what is worth whatever energy you are going to give, and what you're going to think is worth it or isn't worth it. It ultimately really comes down to your perception. So for some people, buying a $1 lottery ticket is an indulgence. For other people, you know, going out spending $1,000 to buy a new shirt, not so much of an indulgence. It's sort of like something that they do kind of regularly, something they have to do. So you've got to decide, what is that overdoing it for you? What is that indulgence for you? And decide if that actually is something that feels and resonates as right to do. So ultimately, I'm not saying that if you spend $10 here, it means this. If you spend $1,000 here, it means that. What I am saying is be mindful of the emotions you're carrying as you are spending money, because it does look like some areas out there are going to be in a little bit of an energy, a little bit of a space where they're feeling incredibly generous. And so what you want to do is to be in that space, to feel generous, feel like you can do that, and be happy about that after the fact. If you're not going to be happy about that after the fact, and you know you aren't, that's not good energy to take in anytime you spend any amount of money, regardless of what it is. So big lesson is going to be around there, especially if you're looking to go on a date or splurge to impress somebody that you are trying to impress. That is something that you're going to have to be mindful of as well. Is there any way in which you are trying to allow things to take the place of genuine connection and just allowing yourself to be you and know that that is enough to attract what it is you want is also going to be part of the learning for you this week. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week we have got Venus in your sign speaking with Jupiter in a conversation of overindulgence. This is overindulgence all around. So for all signs, but this becomes especially true for you, and this becomes an overindulgence, especially where it comes to matters of home. Okay, so matters of home. For some of you, this is going to be your actual physical space, so the place that you're living in. This could be a time when you decide to redecorate, when all of a sudden you have an inspiration and you decide you want your curtains to look different, and you want the absolute best, most amazing curtains. This could be a time when you want some repairs that up until now you absolutely loved exactly the way it was, but now you're like, okay, this needs to be repaired. Be mindful of that, okay, because it does look like under this energy, feelings can change, things can shift. And there is something within you that is a little bit more centered, that has a little bit more of an understanding of what it is ultimately that's going to allow you to make changes that are going to be most meaningful. So connect to that part of you. Connect to that part of you that knows ultimately what really matters, and then you'll be able to navigate this time that much better. This can also be for some out there a desire to, and where this is relevant, okay? Because Jupiter right now is on part of the sky that not only has to do with your home as a physical space, but also your family of origin, in particular your parents. So this could be a time when there is a desire to be generous with your parents or with your family of origin. How you feel about that, how you're able to deal with that, ultimately is going to be a personal decision, but that desire is there. So make sure that you are able to meet that in a managed way, so that self-care is there while you are doing what you feel that you want to do to show your appreciation to somebody else as well. Hello, fabulous Gemini. This week we have got you in a very kind of talkative position, okay? So there's lots of talkative energy there. This can be awesome when it is used intelligently, but I gotta say, for some of you out there, there's going to be a need for you to be mindful how it is that you are speaking to people in positions of power, particularly bosses. So if you are smart about it, and I do believe that you have that ability to be absolutely smart about it. If you are smart about it, you can actually find yourself in a position where you have exactly the right thing to say at the right moment to the right person that can actually help you to advance whatever goal it is that you have. This can also be, if that situation, if you're not really very career-minded, not really thinking along those lines, this can also be getting the clarity you need to actually accomplish something that matters to you. So getting the clarity you need to actually set forth a clear path forward that's going to allow you to accomplish what it is that you really desire to. And not only a plan, but there's an element here that has to do with strategy so that you can meet the larger goals of your life and feel like you're moving in alignment with a sense of life purpose. Now, I also want to add that yours really is the sign in some respects of the Freudian slip. And this is a week when that tendency is especially highlighted in you now. So be mindful of that. You might find yourself saying something And after the fact, I don't see this playing out necessarily with people in position of authority. You're going to have to be mindful and be smart with them. But it does look like, especially if you allow yourself to relax a little bit, you might find yourself just talking, and you may end up saying some things, and after the fact being like, oh my God, what did I say? Why did I say that? Well, ultimately, it is about revealing some truth about yourself. So don't get into a space where you're like, oh my God, why did I say that? You're not a bad person, okay? It's not a bad thing necessarily. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, especially if you learn from it. So be open to it, learn from it, and that in turn will allow you to understand what it is that you're really feeling. And so when I see this element of you being able to secure a clear understanding of where you're going and a pathway forward, and I also see friendships and people really wanting to be there for you, alliances desiring to be made, really strong week for that as well. It kind of makes me go, okay, that's what you want to emphasize now. Because there is going to be a part of you that may trip yourself up a little bit, but ultimately that is only about you bringing to awareness what it is that gets in the way of you doing what it is that you are meant to do, if you will. Whatever it is that gets in the way of you achieving those higher desires that you have in your life, if you have any tendencies there that are creating blocks or any kind of self-sabotage, you will be made aware of it. So when that opportunity comes, the awareness comes, absolutely embrace it, because it is a sign that you are not only increasing your level of awareness, but that you are ultimately moving yourself in a direction that matters to you and that you will like, a direction that allows you to feel you're creating greater stability and you're bringing forward changes that you most desire. Hello, Fabulous Cancer. This week we have got this really interesting energy playing out where it comes to your money, but also where it comes to your friends as well. And, you know, there are times in a chart that say, you know, this is a time to listen to your friends about money. This is not one of those times, okay? I got to tell you, this week is not a time to even think about getting into business with a friend, lending money to a friend, or even just giving money to a friend, really, because it looks like there's some element there that's going to be playing out where you're going to want to be generous and you're going to want to do it, but there's another element playing out there where the intentions on whether it's your side or their side might not be completely pure. And at the same time, I got to say, not necessarily a time to be asking a friend for money either, or to be looking to get into some sort of financial arrangement, or even asking a friend to, like, you know, put your resume at the top of the pile in the HR department. Not necessarily a good week to do that. Now, I say this while also acknowledging that there's a lot of stuff happening in the sky that is really good, and that does speak to people being there for you, with you. It's a time of vision. It's a time of planning. It's a time of thinking about how your relationships are changing and what this says ultimately about the vision for your life, how that is changing, how that is evolving, and embracing that understanding. So you have got this wonderful opportunity now to think of your life in much broader terms, in bigger terms, to think about where it is that you most want to go, whether that's literally or whether that has to do with sort of metaphorically in terms of what it is that you desire to learn, how it is that you desire to grow for the foreseeable future. Emphasize that, because ultimately that is where you're going to find a lot of power, and you're also going to find a lot of supporters. Now, these are not friends. These are people who are aligning with you for the purpose of you moving your life in a positive direction and you fulfilling your vision. Not your friends. So the people that you spend your downtime with, the people that you socialize with, those alliances you have, that is a place that may end up taking a lot of energy from you, may end up being a place where you are really spending a lot of money, whether it's just to have a good time or whether it's for some other financial agreement. You want to be a little bit mindful of that. Rein that desire for escapism and partying a little bit too much in, so that instead you can emphasize where it is ultimately that you desire to go. Because a vision is revealing itself to you very clearly. We just had an eclipse in a part of the sky for you that's all about vision. That's all about being more and knowing more and experiencing more than you had before. And so that is clearly revealing itself to you. A chance is being asked to be made. Don't rely on old patterns. Don't get into those old comfortable patterns, as comfortable as they are. And as much as a Cancer does like that comfort, instead of going there, think instead about how it is that the universe now is asking you to step out of your comfort zone and be more. That's where your power is. That's where your clarity is. And that's where you're going to find a lot of supporters coming forward to help you be more than you knew yourself to be before. Hello, fabulous Leo. This week we have got Jupiter in your sign, speaking with Venus. Now, I've been saying this, I spoke about this in the introduction. It's a big week for overdoing it, okay? But we've also got this balanced out with some energy there that's asking us to stay grounded, think big picture, think about the future, and act accordingly, act ethically, act responsibly. So we've got these two energies playing out. Now, I gotta say the overindulgent energy is a little bit more dominant for you than it might be for some other signs, but you can easily access both intelligently now. And especially where it comes to your money. In fact, this is a really good time for you to have a financial talk. So where it is that you desire to, whether it's evolve your work situation, create a better financial deal for yourself in regards to the work and the changes you desire to experience, be open to that. Okay, be mindful of that. I think really good things are there for you. Really good connections are there to be had. However, having said that, what we also have playing out here for you this week is really a desire for you to just have a lot of fun, which can be, as it sounds, fun. But not if it comes at the expense of something bigger that you desire to do, okay? So if you have a goal and a career sort of that matters to you, something you desire to accomplish, this is going to be a time that asks you to consider not only doing what feels right and taking a big chance, but to take that chance intelligently. Having said that, I think there's going to be more than one Leo out there who's really inspired to make some big, bold, dramatic change, dramatic gesture, be like, you know, I'm blowing this pop stand, whatever your proverbial pop stand is, and be like, you know, I can do this. I'm going all the way. So maybe you just, you know, had your first little taste of community theater, and now you're like, you know what, I'm quitting my job, I'm leaving my family, and I'm going off to New York City, which is awesome, you know, if that's what you're inspired to do. But at the same time, there is another energy playing out there that's saying, okay, wait a minute, do this ethically, do this responsibly. You can have anything you want. You can have any experience that you want, but you've got to find a way that you can do it in a way that allows you to feel like you are valuing a sense of self-respect in the process. And self-respect comes when you not only stick to a plan long enough to see manifestation, but also you honor the agreements that you've already made, or you change them in a responsible manner. So as much as some more rebellious Leos out there in some way, whether it's in a small way or a really big way, are going to be inspired to just make some big, bold, dramatic changes, tap into that part of you that knows you can have any kind of change. You can have any kind of life you want, but just do it with a little bit of foresight and a little bit of understanding that ultimately, wherever you go, you're taking your energy with you. So what you want to do is you want to take energy to any new situation that is pure, that is open, that feels light and feels right as well. You can find that balance if you allow yourself to be honest with yourself, and you allow yourself to be smart and move towards the changes you desire to experience now. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week we have got your ruling planet in your opposite sign, speaking in harmony with Pluto, a fellow Earth sign at that. So in fellow Earth sign. So I look at this placement, and this to me suggests love and romance and people, and especially people that you are aligned with on a heart level, really being there for you, having key conversations with you, and being able to reach agreements with them that allow you to feel that you have a sense of clarity. And also, it's like, what I'm really seeing is a lot of Virgos out there say, you know what, that's right. You know what? That's smart. Yeah, I can accept that. Maybe before where there was resistance, now there's an understanding that it isn't about, all or nothing. It isn't about what you want, what they want. But what it is about is having a level of understanding when the other person is presenting you with a perspective that makes sense and an understanding of where you want to go and the smart way to actually move yourself there, to actually move yourself in that direction. I often say, you can have anything you want. I believe that with all my heart. You can have anything you want, but most of the time, or at least some of the time, what the universe has planned for us is so much cooler and so much bigger than anything we could have planned for ourselves. And what we want and what we think is so big and so amazing, and that's what we want, ultimately is actually thinking really small from the universe's perspective. That what we consider this huge thing is so small, and what the universe wants for us is so big and so beautiful, if only we would allow it. If only we would surrender some of those desires that are being met with resistance again and again. I do think that for a lot of Virgos out there, there's been some plan forward, some action, something they really wanted to do that's been met with a lot of resistance. And this is a week when somebody who cares about you, somebody that you are aligned with on a heart level, either a partner or a lover or a child, is going to help you to be honest with yourself. Where is the resistance? Why is the resistance there? And what could that resistance actually mean? Because ultimately it is about transforming that resistance so that you can move your life and move yourself in a direction that actually resonates as truly right for you. The universe does have some wonderful changes planned for you. May not happen at a drop of a hat, the snap of a finger, but it is in the works. But it is about you also accepting that ultimately our perception as human beings and as part of the mystery can sometimes be very small. This is a time when somebody who loves you is going to ask you to think bigger by accepting ultimately what it is that isn't working. And in that acceptance, a whole other vision of what really could be really awesome and really amazing and so much better, if you'd allow yourself to consider it, will begin to present itself to you. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week we have got your ruling planet speaking with, so your ruling planet Venus speaking with Neptune, speaking with Jupiter as well. And I look at this and this just has overindulgence, overdoing it all over the place. There's a lot of faith and a lot of belief, right? But there's also some action that might not necessarily be smart. And this, I think, is especially going to play out in the realm of thinking about things like your friendships, okay? And what I'm seeing is, this is playing out for a lot of the earth signs, but in their own unique ways. It looks like this week, where it comes to the work that you're doing, okay? The actual workspace. You want to have a clear line between what is a friend and what is a coworker, because it looks like that line might end up being blurred a little bit and not to your advantage in a way that actually after the fact might feel a little bit like that could have been a little bit different. I maybe should have acted a little different. Maybe I shouldn't have said so much. That is something that I think a lot of air signs are going to feel, but especially to you. And especially for you where it comes to your coworkers, there may be that sort of drive playing out where you end up saying a little bit too much to a coworker, thinking that they're more of a friend, and then end up feeling really vulnerable after the fact. So just be a little bit mindful of that. This doesn't have to be a negative thing, doesn't have to be a bad thing. And in fact, if you play it smart, which you absolutely have the ability of doing, but if you play it just a little bit smart, I think that you're going to find yourself being able to sort of form and reinforce connections with people that you already know well. And reinforce connections that have to do with creating a stronger work ethic and working together more intelligently. So where it comes to people you work with, where it comes to especially people who are kind of new that you don't already know that well, this is a time to play it conservative, even though the inspiration is going to be there to go the whole other way, to be overly friendly. Don't be overly friendly with new people this week. I just feel like you're going to end up saying something that makes you feel like, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I share that? And so in order to prevent that, what instead you want to do is be a little bit smart, be a little bit strategic, but with people that you've already been working with for a really long time, especially the longer you've known them, the better. But if you have people that you've known for a really long time, this is a time to really brainstorm ideas and what you want to do and the way forward and what you're hoping to work on, and to think about the things that you could work on with them together, whether you're working with them now or they're people you've already been connected to for a really long time and have a desire to work with. If anything, these are going to be people who give you some really great ideas forward. This is also a time when I do think for some Libras out there, especially if you're self-employed and you have a home-based business, this is a time when you can attract an amazing client. Somebody who likely has a lot of money, likely has some influence, and sort of comes in the picture and can really help evolve your work to another level and create or be part of you creating greater prosperity for yourself as well. What I look at when I consider this week is it really just comes down to intuition, listening to yourself. Where it is that you get carried away is when you're thinking more about just the fun and the flight in the moment. But if you're listening to yourself, connected to your intuition, then you're going to find opportunity presents itself for you to move yourself positively forward in your work and in other goals and dreams that you have for your life. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. This week we have got this really interesting energy playing out, especially where it comes to your money, where it comes to your finances. That really is where I think a lot of promise is, and a lot of real promise to make tangible progress is. In fact, I do think that this is a week when, for some Scorpios out there, there's going to be more work, which in turn creates greater prosperity, or there's going to be some opportunity in the workplace to create greater prosperity for yourself. Now, this may or may not come with a promotion. It may just come with a lateral move at that. Where I see you sort of getting yourself in a little bit of a pickle, which is a possibility this week, is saying the wrong thing to a higher up. Or, and I think this is a possibility for some Scorpios out there, and I'm just going to put this out there, not a week to flirt with a boss, okay? I'm just going to say it. Not a week to flirt with the boss, even if it's innocent. Even if you've been flirting with this person for a long time already. Even if, you think of this as just a friendly thing. If it can, in any light, be interpreted as flirting, the chance of it going, sort of crossing a line is just a little bit too much. And so I just see some Scorpios out there saying something or doing something, and it may be completely innocent, but it being taken a certain way, or doing something that actually isn't innocent, but wanting it to seem kind of innocent, but it actually isn't. So you're testing the water a little bit. Slow that whole thing down. I'm really just going to advise you to slow that down. There's a time for it. And even if, as I said, even if it's something that's been ongoing, even if it's something that's been happening in the past, this is not necessarily the time for you to indulge that so much. So play it conservative in the workplace. You'll be so, so glad you did. I promise you, you will be so glad you did. Because if you play it a little bit conservative in the workplace, you are going to find your ideas being taken a lot more seriously. And that doesn't mean you can't get your flirt on next week. Next week is a much better week for getting your flirt on. I promise you. Especially if you're with anybody, actually, whether it's the workplace or outside the workplace. Next week is a much more hospitable environment for having that conversation that feels flirty, that feels right, that boosts your confidence, that opens you to love. This is not the week, okay? So just play it a little conservative. Hold on. Be strategic. You are at your best when you are strategic. And if you allow yourself to do that, to be a little smart, to play it a little close to the chest, then you're going to find, especially your ideas, the more creative ones, the more out there ones, the types that you may not necessarily be open to sharing all the time. Your creative ideas, and especially as you're articulating them, will find a plan forward will be taken seriously. You will be taken seriously as somebody who, it's not just about being a mover or shaker, but somebody who really has some power and who really has some insight. And that's what I think that you're actually going for. As I said, next week, much better for love. This week, as much as there's hope and dreams and wishes in the air, have those, have your romance, let that have that space, but keep it separate from the career sphere. Okay? And you're going to find that a little bit of restraint now, again, this is something your sign knows, a little bit of restraint now will pay off big time, just a little further down the road, especially once we get you into next week. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week we have got your ruling planet speaking with Venus in a very over-the-top conversation. Now, we do have your ruling planet, Jupiter, in a fire sign. And we've also got other stuff happening in the sky, very supportive to you. And that's the energy you want to emphasize. We've got Saturn now, just newly retrograde in your sign. So what we call stationary retrograde. Newly retrograde in your sign, really potent as the week starts. Speaking to the sun in supreme harmony. This is a really fortunate conversation. This is you understanding how it is that you're going to move your life in a direction that is solid, that is stable, that is secure, and feeling a powerful pull towards it. Those of you who are open to meeting somebody new, are dating somebody, or just wanting to meet somebody new, this is an amazing time to make a connection or to fortify a connection that has real long-term potential, to understand what you need to do today if you are going to build that solid, strong relationship that you desire as part of the bigger picture of your life. So, really great for that. Also a really great time to carve out space for your creative ideas, for making sure that you're indulging your creativity in an intelligent way that ultimately can create greater security, greater prosperity for you in the bigger picture. And the other thing this week is great for is getting good news where it comes to a child. So if you have a child, whether or not there's been good news or not good news or concerns or no concerns, this is a time when you should get some really good news, understanding that your child definitely is doing something right, that there's either a strong connection made for your child with somebody who's going to make a positive difference, or just getting good news that maybe something that you weren't so sure about or something that was concerning really is just going to be okay, that your child is stronger than you realize. So that is playing out at the same time. But as I said, we've also got this other conversation happening in the sky that is just overindulgent all around. And it looks like, especially where it comes to your health, I gotta say, where it comes to your health, it just looks like you, as much as, look, I'm very much of a belief, there's something about the spiritual energy we hold, regardless of how much you believe it, regardless of even Saturn in your sign telling you to be practical, go with the tried and true. There is something about having a spiritual state of openness and happiness that is part of a healthier life. Okay, I absolutely believe that. But there's also something to be said for using that as an excuse to overindulge in things that maybe aren't so good for you. So this is going to be an important week. I spoke of in the introduction this whole idea of how some of us may be inclined to overdo it, especially in something we know isn't good for us, and sort of like dismiss it and say, you know what, no, actually I'm doing this because it's a spiritual thing to do, or it's, it feels right to do it, and it doesn't really matter, and it's not really affecting me. Well, you're going to want to watch that a little bit, because there is that element playing out here where if you're really honest with yourself, you'll be able to stay grounded and stay centered and stay honest with you. However, there's still going to be that tendency there to overindulge in something, and depending on the emotion you bring is going to determine the outcome. So knowing that this is coming up, do that overindulgence responsibly. Now, all the fire signs out there are inclined to this week. For you especially, I'm seeing this in the realm of your health. So just be mindful of that in the realm of your health. Rein it in a little bit. And also, just on another side note, in the realm of the workplace, also you want to rein it in a little bit in the realm of your workplace. Overindulging in the workplace is not a time to take some paper clips home. really not a time to do that. And be like overly responsible, like to the point of just people thinking, what are you doing? Why are you so, being so good? Don't worry about that. Be good. This is a week to be good, especially in the workplace. It will pay off for you very, very shortly once we get you into next week. So it's better to have a little bit of holding back this week, because next week it does pay off. And for you, this especially is very much in alignment with what's happening with you on a health level, and also what's happening with you on a level of your workplace situation as well. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. This week we have got Mercury speaking to Pluto in your sign. You add to this in your sign in a harmony at that, and you add to this the fact that the Sun is speaking to your ruling planet in supreme harmony. I do think that there is an energy this week that has to do with overindulgence, with doing like just going over the top and regretting it the day after. I think that your sign is probably the least likely to indulge this energy, which works very much to your advantage. So it does look like on a mind level, you're thinking really clearly, very strategically. You're thinking about your plans forward and making plans. And also there's a real desire for you to connect with others, to communicate with others, and to figure out a way forward that is going to help you move towards really a future picture that matters to you. And so changes are being made. You're learning how to more effectively present your case. And this is a really great week for you. If there's any way that, if you have one of those like sort of business plans or something you want to do, or like a plan forward, this is the time for you to connect with that energy, to nurture that energy, and to actually fine tune that very plan that's going to help you move your life in a direction that you would desire it to go. What we also have happening, as I said, we have got this supremely harmonious conversation happening with your ruling planet and with the Sun, but they're happening in a part of the sky that is very quiet, if you will, quote unquote. So part of the more quiet parts of the sky, or your sky. And so this looks like you are coming to deeper understandings of the meaningfulness of what you do, of your determination as well, and a real desire to succeed. Now, those of you who are working on some project kind of behind the scenes, those of you who have a home-based business or a project you're working on in your own time at home that you're hoping to launch at some point, this is a time when you just really make some huge gains in terms of understanding how it is that you're going to move forward, what's the most effective thing to do to move your life in the direction that you desire it to go, and what ultimately is going to help you to achieve those larger goals for your life. So home, time on your own, very good spaces for you to really nurture a stronger sense of foundation. Now, also just sort of a side note where it's relevant for some Capricorns out there, if you have a parent who is in the hospital or has been in the hospital or might have to go, it looks like everything that you get really good news around that. So if you've been worried about a parent's health, this is a time when you should get some really good news that helps like sort of restore a sense of order, if you will, I guess is the best way that I can put it. Now, I do want to say where we are seeing some sort of overindulgence, if you will, playing out this week, has to do in part with sort of money. Okay, so there's a financial element and a joy element to this. And what I'm seeing, this is the type of money that comes from, things like investments, grants, loans, bursaries. Now, it does look like there's going to be a desire to have fun, okay? Don't dip into your savings for it, is really what it comes down to. Don't dip into any kind of, if you have some savings, if you have some investments, leave them in place. There's going to be desire for you to take a chance, to take a risk, and to take some money out of where it already is, or to access resources where they are safe and secure and sound. And this is not necessarily a week to do that. So even if a financial opportunity or investment seems amazing and you got to jump on it right now, play it a little conservative for now. There will be other opportunities for you to move forward with what it is that you, how it is that you desire to create greater prosperity for yourself. So right now, play it a little bit, especially if something comes up that's very much like, act now type of thing. that's when you really want to pull back as well. I'd also advise you, for those of you out there, and again, where it's relative, where it's relevant, if you have a child, this is also a time to sort of second guess any sort of expenses that may come up around a child as well. So it may seem like a really great investment to put your child in this whole other sport that they've never tried and buy a whole lot of really expensive equipment, or really expensive textbooks for a whole new course that they've never really done or really expressed a desire to learn about before. This is a time to play it a little safe. Let them test the waters a little bit, okay, before you make an investment that feels over the top for you. I'm not saying whether or not something is an over the top investment. It's about what feels like it is for you. So this is a time for you to sort of play it a little bit closer. If something is sort of good for your child, it will have a way of coming together that feels a little bit more organic. But if it feels like you're having to go into a space where you start to feel like there's lack and, oh, I've got to spend this money, that's when you want to pull back a little bit and be like, okay, you know what? Let's take a breath. Let's wait a couple of days. And really, it just really is about you waiting until the early part of next week when a clearer picture and how you're going to move forward presents itself to you in that regard. But overall, as I said this week, of all the signs to not give into overindulgences, it really is you. So there's stable progress forward in terms of just your dreams and the desires that you have for a better life, but also in a very tangible way as well, where you're moving your life in a positive direction. Hello, Fabulous Aquarius. This week we have got a few really interesting things playing out for you on the realm of home, okay? And also on the realm of love as well. And this, to me, when I see the sky, a few things sort of come to mind. First and foremost, look, I do want to say, we do have your ancient ruling planet Saturn speaking in supreme harmony with the sun, and both of these planets are in a very harmonious position to you, okay? So both of these planets are having their conversation in parts of the sky that have to do with friends really being there for you, really having the talk that makes all the difference with a friend that grounds you, that centers you, that helps you feel like, okay, finally, we're able to move forward. We're able to do something that's meaningful, that matters, and being able to do it with a friend at that. Or at the very least, having that conversation that inspires you and spurs you forward. So we do have that happening. You are supported, very supported as a matter of fact. And this can also be a time when just randomly running into a friend creates, whether it's personal, a personal moment for you to have a talk that brings a greater sense of emotional stability, or actually randomly running into somebody who has sort of a tangible opportunity for you. So sort of says to you, you know what, you would be really great for that opportunity, or have you considered doing this for your work? I would really like to see you doing this. And it's sort of something goes click in you and you go, wow, yeah, I could do that, and I could achieve something, and I could create greater prosperity for myself as a result as well. So I do have this to offer. This can create really meaningful manifestations for me and really stable future for me. These types of realizations can sort of come about in a very surprise way. So make sure that you're busy and out and about. Do actively spend time with friends. That's where your power is this week. Here's where things get a little bit more interesting, and that is in the realm of the home, okay? And it does look like on the home front, a couple of things are playing out. On the one hand, there may be a desire to redecorate, okay? And there might be some expenses coming up. And you may not actually realize on the surface that they're actually a lot grander and bigger. Like maybe in your imagination, something is playing out of what you really want that's actually bigger than where you are now. And it is likely going to be a partner who's in some way a part of this, okay? So this is a couple of different ways I'm seeing this play out. On the one hand, it might be a partner that gives you a bit of a rude awakening, that sort of says to you, wait a minute, this is something you want to do, and I know you want to do it. You want to see this improvement. You want to have, like, you know, chandeliers with, you know, dripping with golden lights, and you can have that. But look, you're going to have to take out a second mortgage for this. Is that something you want to do? You might have that, and you might not be happy about it. I gotta say, it looks like you might not be very happy about it. But this energy can also go the other way. And what I mean by that is a friend might, not a friend, sorry, a partner, okay? So whether it's a romantic partner or a business partner, might actually, and not saying that they're necessarily being deceptive, but they may not be completely honest with you. And so it might be that, okay, you know, if you want to do it, yeah, why not? Of course you can do it. Sure, go for it. Yeah, we can do this. And it ends up being either like a really large expense, or it ends up being some change that you think in your mind is going to be incredible, but ends up being really gaudy. So you just want to be mindful of that. So find a way to find your right balance and stay connected to what really matters, because that is what is going to anchor you this week. There's a strong sense that talking is going to keep you centered to what really matters. It's going to keep you clear, and it's going to keep you moving forward in a direction you like. And more importantly, it's going to lead you to create actions, or lead you to participate in actions that make you feel strong about yourself. Just watch the tendency to get carried away on creative ideas, creative changes, especially in the home environment, that ultimately are going to be things that either you change your mind on, are going to be things that either, you know, end up in some way draining a lot of energy where you don't want the energy to go. You're much more it's much more conducive to you and what it is that's going to create positive outcomes in your life if you wait a little bit. So don't give in to the first flight of fancy, okay? So let's say you think you want a chandelier. You walk into a store, you see this incredible chandelier. The chandelier's way out of your price league. Instead of talking yourself into and having somebody with you who you know is not gonna tell you, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this, wait a little bit. And early next week, we have just things falling into place so much more effectively for you, where, you know, you could walk into the same store, see the same chandelier, and it costs like it's on a huge discount or something. So that's what I mean. Things can really turn around very much in a way that you like, and you can create changes that actually help you to feel more at home in your space, to create more beauty in your space. But you want to do it in a way that is clear and that is smart, and that ultimately is going to create changes that you're going to like for a really long time. I don't think this is the week. I think this week, changes that you make, there's lots of inspiration, lots of creative ideas. Not the best time to actually implement the changes, or to commit to any changes, or to spend the money to make those changes. Rather, it's a good time to dream and to consider. Next week, much better time for you to have things come together, fall into place in a way that actually creates changes that you are likely to adore in the home environment, rather, for a very long time to come. I also do want to add, where it comes to, like, for those of you out there, this is going to be the case for some Aquarians out there. If you live with a partner now, or you're involved with somebody and want to, like, move in with them, let's say, are thinking about setting up house or incorporating them more into your home environment as well, you may be seeing the transition a little bit more optimistically. And so again, if you're shopping for a new home with a partner, you may be seeing that whole, like, sort of where you could live together and how it could be, much more optimistically. If you want to move early next week, much better time for you to find something that you absolutely love, that works for both of you, that comes together really nicely, and that just resonates as a better fit for you. So if you are looking at, you know, changing the dynamics of a partnership to incorporate them more into your living situation, I would say to you, just be measured, think about, dream about what could come together in a way that works for both of you, but actually take the action as you head to the very end of the week and as you start next week. It's very likely to be that much more effective, and you're much more likely to find something that works very well for both of you. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week we have got Mercury in your sign. Mercury in your sign, speaking in harmony with Pluto. I do think that with all the different energies we have playing out this week, some speaking to overdoing it, overindulgences, not seeing things clearly, going way over the top, regretting it afterwards, sort of like, you know, morning after. regrets for some people out there. I do think that for you, the mind is not going to let you get away with that. It looks like your mind is going to be so sharp and so awake and really considering what is going to be effective, really understanding much more deeply what is playing out. And I think that friends are really going to be there to keep you in line. That it's not going to be easy for you to get too carried away, even though a part of you is going to want to. And there's almost an addictive quality to it, I gotta say. We have got Venus speaking in harmony with Neptune in your sign this week. So that's encouraging some really imaginative thoughts. Really great if you're an artist of any kind, whether you're an artist or a healer, working with energies, spiritual energies, creative energies. Channel it into that. Nothing too consequential, okay? But the mind is really clear, and there's also an energy there. Your ancient ruling planet is speaking with Venus as well. There's an energy there that may be inclined to overdo it, and so you're going to want to watch that. Now, all the water signs this week, I'm saying, be careful at work. Really be careful at work. This is true for you as well. And this becomes especially true for you to be careful at work with what you say. Watch what you say in the workspace, because it looks like you may say something to a coworker, whether they take it as intended or not. It just looks like information that could spread that you don't like. Okay, so be mindful flirting with coworkers this week. All water signs out there. Be mindful, it's not a week to flirt, even if you've been flirting with them, even if you've been hoping things go great, even if you've gone out on dates with them. Play it conservative in the workplace, okay? But also be mindful of what you share in the workplace with coworkers. You don't want to share too much with coworkers this week. It just looks like you may be thinking it's a secret, you may be thinking it's private, and they think, oh, it's just something that everybody knows, and ends up sharing something that you don't want getting out. So just be mindful of that, okay? Because it does look like that could play out. Now, this could be something romantic, okay? But it may also be just like you sharing what you do in your downtime, or this just could be you being a little bit too informal with a coworker as well. So it's better to play it a little bit conservative. You will only be grateful for it in the bigger picture, I promise you. Because it does look like if you can play it a little bit conservative now in the workplace, when we get to the early part of next week, you are able to have a meaningful conversation that makes a big difference in many respects, helps you move in a positive direction financially and towards your goals as well. So hold back a little bit now. You'll be glad for it. Don't flirt in the workplace now. Really not a good time to flirt in the workplace. So pull back, right? Also, I do want to say for Pisceans out there, this does also look like a week when, and this is going to play itself out with just a few Pisceans out there, not a whole lot, but some of you out there, you might get some health information that misses the mark. That you think is actually right, but may not be in some way. So this is a time to be mindful of any prescriptions, interactions of your prescriptions, especially if you're taking anything that has to do with your allergies. You want to be mindful of that. But also, I do want to say that any kind of health advice you get, it doesn't look like, look, if you're going to somebody established, a doctor or whatever, it doesn't look like it's coming from there. But if you're getting some sort of health advice, someone's giving like a more intuitive reading, or some advice that just comes out of nowhere, you hear something as you're flicking channels, or sort of searching videos online, the advice that you get, the things that you hear, might not actually be what is going to be good for you, is actually going to help you. So there might be some sort of health idea or concept of something that you could do that will be good, helpful to you, that sort of catches your attention. You may end up getting a little carried away at it. You may think, yeah, this is it. But just be a little measured, hold back a little bit. If it is something, if you do want something to help improve your health, you are going to have lots of opportunities for that coming up just a little bit further, especially once we get you into the early part of April. Looks like really good health news is coming in the early part of April. But this week, it just looks like you may end up latching on to something or getting some advice that isn't really what you need, and ultimately just creates more confusion for you. Or there could be sort of you want to watch your prescriptions as well. So just it never hurts to be a little bit overly diligent as a way of demonstrating a level of self-care. So self-care, I'm very much of the belief, self-care is a way of demonstrating to yourself that you value yourself, that you love yourself. It's the little things we do every day that prove to ourselves what we really feel about who we are. And this is going to be a time when there's going to be that sincere desire to do just that. And so you're going to want to channel this energy intelligently so that you use it to your advantage. Well, thank you so much to all signs out there. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.